Welcome to Becoming MindStrong, the official podcast of MindStrong Fitness. My name is Rachel. I'm the owner and head coach of MindStrong Fitness, and I am here to teach you truth. No more bullshit, no more point systems, no more shakes, no more raps. This is math and science, and we're going to learn how to do it together. Ready? Let's rock and roll. Welcome to episode 7 of Becoming MindStrong, and today we're talking about motivation and consistency. Consistency is the key to all this, but it's such a common roadblock to just not feel like it, right? There's days where we wake up and we feel super motivated, and there's days where it's not happening for us. And we can accept the truth. We know the truth that if we only put in the effort on the days we feel like it, we're not going to be successful. So how do we continue to push through? How do we continue to build that consistency on those days where motivation just escapes us? And there's 3 parts to this conversation. The first part is how to start, how to light that flame, how to get it going. The second part is how to keep it going. How do we keep that consistency on the days where motivation is just not our best friend? It's just not there. And then finally, there's the third step, which is the ultimate goal. And that's where we're actually going to start this conversation. We're going to start at the end and we're going to work our way backwards. So here's what we need to understand. The holy grail of this, when it comes to health and fitness, whether we're talking about nutrition, whether we're talking about workouts, the holy grail of our lives, I'm going to make a blanket statement bigger than health and fitness even, is habits. Everything that we are right now, everything that we do, the person that we are in every area of our life, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's health and fitness, we are a result of our habits. That is the first and foremost thing that we have to understand. If you want to change your life, that comes from changing your habits. That's our end goal. Our end goal is to literally wire our brain, because it is neuroscience. It is the neurology of our brain. Our ultimate goal is to wire our brain for habits when it comes to fitness, when it comes to health, for habits that serve us. So it's literally a no-brainer. We are acting on autopilot. And whether or not to work out, whether or not to track our food, whether or not to make healthy choices, these things just work on autopilot because it's a part of our daily habits. It's a part of the person that we are. So what we need to understand is that our brains are these powerhouses, right? They're stronger, they're more complex than any machine that we know. We have been unable to completely reproduce them in the AI world. Our brains are crazy, crazy impressive things. They're also lazy as hell. So left up to its own devices, our brain is going to form habits whether we're conscious of them or not. And typically, we're not. So if you're in the habit right now of going from work to your car to your couch, that's a habit. You didn't consciously decide, okay, every day after work, I'm going to mindlessly drive home and then I'm going to sit on my couch and I'm going to relax and this is just who I am and what I want to do. You just did it again and again and again. And at some point, your brain said, you know what? I'm noticing a pattern here. I'm noticing that every day we're going from work to the car to the couch. So this seems to just be what we do. So let me make this the path of least resistance. Let me literally wire my brain for neural connections that say work, car, couch. And that's the reason that we can zone out and suddenly look up and be like, holy cow, how did I get on my couch? I don't even remember the drive home. Because it's a no-brainer. It's just a part of who you are and what you do. It's a habit that your brain developed without your conscious thought. So if we want to truly change our lives, if we want to become a different person, the way that we do that first and foremost is through consciously developing habits that serve us. The way we develop those habits is through repetition. It's by doing the same thing, the thing that we want to exist in our world as a no-brainer, doing it over and over and over and over and over again. We have to do constant repetition of that act, of that thought, of whatever that thing is until our brain starts to recognize, okay, this is a pattern. This is something we're doing consciously, consistently. So let me form a neural connection and wire this sucker in so it becomes a part of who I am and what I do. That's the ultimate goal. That's step 3 of this, is to build habits that serve us. Okay, so now let's take a step back, because then the obvious question goes, okay, that's great, Rachel. Like, that's great that I want to build these habits. But how, right? We know that motivation is fleeting. We know that there's days where we wake up and we've just got this energy and we don't know where it came from, but we are ready to kick some serious ass. And maybe the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, the thought of tying my shoes sounds difficult today. And we don't know why. There's no logical reasoning for why yesterday is so different than today. We don't know where that motivation went. All we know is that today we just don't feel like doing it. So how do we keep that consistency that's eventually going to build those habits on those days where we don't feel like doing it? Now, before we have this conversation about consistency, we have to understand something. If your answer to me is, well, I don't want to live life like that, I don't want to live a life where I'm forcing myself to do something I don't want to do, then as I like to say in the wise words of the teenagers I used to teach, do you, boo-boo, right? No one is forcing you to do this. And we're going to talk a lot about choice in today's episode. But if your answer is, I don't want to live a life of, if I don't feel like working out, I'm not going to work out, then awesome, don't work out, right? No one is holding a gun to your head saying that you have to do this. But we also have to understand that things go hand in hand. You always have a choice of whether or not to work out. You always have a choice of whether to eat for your goals or not. And if your answer is, on days where I don't feel like it, I'm not going to, okay. But with that comes the acceptance that you are not going to reach your health and fitness goals. You are not going to reach your financial goals. You are not going to reach your relationship goals or your business goals or anything else. If we only put in the work on the days where we 100% feel like it, we are not going to reach our goals. Now, there's something to be said for listening to your body's energy, right? If you're tired, if you're worn down, if you're not in the headspace to do something, that's a different conversation. But if we're talking pure motivation on the days where you feel fired up, if those are the only days you're putting in the work, you are not going to reach your goals. This is about lighting the spark. It's about getting going and putting in the work, even on days where it's not coming organically for us. So there's two parts to this consistency conversation. The first is accountability. There is beauty in accountability. And for some reason, I hear time and time again the word should, which is actually the second part of this consistency conversation, but it goes hand in hand with accountability. I cannot tell you how many times I hear from people, I don't know why I need an accountability buddy. I don't know why I'm only successful when someone's checking in on me. I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't need the accountability factor. I shouldn't need someone to check in on me. And my answer to you is, says who? Who says you shouldn't need that? Why have you decided that that's some arbitrary rule, that it's a weakness to need accountability? We all need accountability. I live and breathe this stuff. It's my livelihood. It's one of my biggest passions in life. And there are still days where I need accountability. I'll go do a Facebook Live just because I don't feel like training my abs that day. And I know if I'm doing it live, I have to do it. Is that wrong? Is that a weakness? No, it means I'm a human and I don't really enjoy training my abs some days. There is nothing wrong with accountability. In fact, it is a superpower because not only is it holding yourself accountable, but you're helping out someone else. And there's beauty in that. So what kind of accountability you need is going to be a personal conversation, right? We don't all need the same kind of accountability. But anything that's going to help you be successful, whether it's a coach, whether it's an accountability buddy, whether it's a journal, whether it's a program where you click complete at the end of the day, that's beautiful because what it's doing is it's holding you accountable, and that accountability is making you consistent, and that consistency is what's leading us to our end goal of forming a habit. Now, the second part of this consistency is what we touched on already. I call it shoulding all over yourself. SHOULD, shoulding all over yourself. And as human beings, we live and breathe this stuff. If we have not trained our mind, we are masters at the shoulding game. We are masters at telling ourselves, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, I should do this, but I shouldn't do this, and I shouldn't do this, but I should, and we spend most of our day telling ourselves what we should and shouldn't do. Same with the accountability piece, right? We already touched on that. I shouldn't need an accountability buddy. And we do the same thing when it comes to this idea of consistency. So Monday morning, you wake up, you are fired up. You have natural motivation. You don't know where it came from, but you are ready to hit the gym, to hit your at-home workout, to track your food, whatever it is. Tuesday morning, you wake up, and for whatever reason, it's just not there. You're just not feeling it. So what's the first thing we tell ourselves? I should work out today. Well, tell me something. Has telling yourself I should work out today ever gotten you fired up to work out? It certainly is not for me. If anything, it creates more tension. It creates more pressure, right? It's like those middle schoolers I used to teach. Whenever you tell them you have to do this, nobody wants to be told what to do. It doesn't matter if you're in middle school or an adult, or if it's a friend or a spouse or yourself telling you that you should do this. We don't want to be told what we should do. We want choice. And a key to consistency lies in the power of choice. So here's what we do. We put a little red flag on the word should. And when you notice, I don't feel like working out, I should work out, red flag it. Should you work out? Says who? Is the world going to end if you don't work out? Is your family going to love you any less if you don't work out? Of course not. The world will go on. No destruction is coming to planet Earth if you miss your workout that day. It is always a choice. So we put a red flag on the word should. We pause. We breathe. We consider our options. Do I have to work out today? Nope. I don't feel like it. Awesome. I have the choice not to. The world will go on. Also, I understand that making that choice means I'm not getting any closer to my goals, right? It means that I've broken the consistency toward building that habit. Am I okay with that? And if the answer is truly yes, if the answer is, you know what, like today is not the day, I'm not in the headspace, I'm sore, I'm tired, I want to spend time with my family, whatever it is, if you've weighed the pros and cons and the answer is today is not the day, then awesome. Make the choice, move on with your life. You'll try again tomorrow. There's no sitting there and, no, I'm not going to work out today, but I should, and beating yourself up over it the rest of the day. That's not doing anything except making you feel like crap. You weigh the pros and cons and you move on with your day. Maybe you weigh the pros and cons and you decide, you know what? I don't know if I feel like right now. No, I don't feel like it. But when I weigh the pros and cons, maybe I could do this. So then we play a little game, and we're going to dive more into this game in a second. I'm just going to start with one exercise. Instead of jumping into a full hour-long workout, why don't I just do 3 sets of bodyweight squats? I'm just going to start there and see how I feel. But the rules to this game are, if I really don't feel like it, if I do my 3 sets of bodyweight squats and I just am not feeling it, I can stop. And you do it, and 9 times out of 10, you will keep going, because getting that spark lit, getting started is always the biggest mental hurdle. And once you get going, momentum is your best friend. But the way to get that momentum going is never, ever by shoulding all over yourself. It is always about choice. Now, let's back it up one step further. We've talked about that the ultimate goal is to build the habits. We've talked about to get to the habits, what we need is consistency. We need repetition. We've talked about how to get that repetition. It can be done through an accountability buddy. It can be done through a coach. It can be done through whatever accountability works best for you. And it comes from choice. No shoulding, all choice. Now let's talk about how to start. And this is one of my favorite topics to dive into, because it's so counterintuitive to what you think a coach would tell you, right? People they think of fitness coaches as these spitting in your face, pain is weakness, leaving the body, give me 10 more till you leave it all on the mat type of people. And I'm just not a believer in that. Like at some point, yeah, maybe you get to that level and that works for you. But that is not what works in the beginning. That leads to overwhelm. That leads to paralysis by analysis. That leads to never starting. The way that I suggest starting is by feeling into it, feeling into the bare minimum that you are willing to commit to. And there's no right or wrong to this. This is going to vary person to person. It's going to depend on your current level. It's going to depend on your current schedule. There's a million things that go into this. This is not a right or wrong situation. But here's what I mean by that. Let's say you decide that you are going to start working out 4 days a week. The thought of an hour-long workout sounds super overwhelming. When you think about an hour-long workout 4 days a week, you can just feel, this is a feeling, it is not a logic thing. You feel your body get tense. So we pause and we breathe and we take a step back. Okay, 4 days a week, hour-long, that's too much for me. That is not my starting place. It is not going to be sustainable. I can feel the tension already. How does 3 days a week of an hour feel? No, I don't think it's the days in a week. I think it's the hour that's my stumbling block right now. Okay, take a breath. Well, how does 4 days a week of 30 minutes feel to me? Oh, that feels pretty good. I think I commit to that. That's your starting place. And for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, you set the bar. That is the bar. When you're done with your 4 days a week, 30 minutes, there's no I should have, there's no, well, my best friend is doing this. No, you crushed it. You did your 4 days a week of 30 minutes. You are done. Go freaking celebrate yourself and move on. The goal is to start what's comfortable for you. For you, maybe it's not a time limit. Maybe it's a number of exercises. You know what? I'm willing to commit to 3 exercises 3 days a week. So 3 days a week, I'm going to do body weight squats, lunges, and 1 set of whatever abs I feel like. That feels comfortable for me. That's it. Every 3 days a week, you do your 3 exercises, you throw yourself a freaking party, and you move on with your life. There's no, well, I really should do a 4th. Well, I have the time. No, you set your goal and you crushed it and you moved on. Maybe it's about nutrition. Maybe the goal right now is I'm just going to track my food for 5 days. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to get in the habit of tracking my food. There's no beating yourself up. There's no, well, I shouldn't have eaten those Oreos. No, you tracked your food. You're a freaking rock star. Awesome. You crushed your goal. Because here's what's going to happen. And this, to me, this is the key to making this a lifestyle. Momentum is our best friend. Most of us don't start because the feeling of starting is so overwhelming that we get into this all in, all out mindset. Well, where I can't commit to all that, so I'm just going to do nothing. But when we let this process happen organically, momentum becomes our saving grace. So if your starting place, the thing that you have felt into that feels sustainable to you, is 3 days a week for 30 minutes. Okay, maybe you do that for a week. Maybe you do that for 2 weeks. Hell, maybe you do that for 3 weeks. At some point, you are organically, you don't have to force this because organically your body is going to go, holy crap, I feel so good. I wonder what it would feel like to do 4 days a week of 30 minutes. Or I wonder what it would feel like to do 3 days a week, but of 45 minutes. Or I wonder what it would feel like to do 3 days a week, 30 minutes, and track my food. Our bodies are pleasure-seeking creatures. We want to feel good. So when you take these baby steps, momentum will take the reins from you. It's going to say, oh, this feels really good. What else can I do? What else can I do? And we don't have to force it. The problem is most of us go into it with this all in, all out mindset of, okay, here we go. Day 1, first day of the rest of my life. I'm going to change my nutrition. I'm going to start working out 5 days a week. I'm going to start eating clean. And that is so overwhelming that maybe we can keep that momentum going for a week or a couple weeks, maybe a month. But at some point we're going to burn out because we're trying to do too much too fast. When we feel into it, when we find the starting place that feels natural to us, it doesn't feel forced, it feels comfortable. We let momentum propel us forward and we let the process unfold organically. The former musician in me and the former music teacher loves to use this analogy. So I used to teach middle school music where I would get kids started on their instruments. I would be the one to hand them their instrument the first day, show them how to hold it, how to put it together, then send them home for the squeaking and squawking that ensued in the days ahead. On the day that I give the kid the instrument, they are not signing up for private lessons and auditioning for the New York Philharmonic all in the same day. That's not how the process works. The process is they grab their instrument. They make really weird sounds that sound like dying cows. They have a good laugh. Maybe they get a little frustrated at it. And they practice some more. And they practice some more. And pretty soon we can start to hear some semblance of hot cross buns. And they practice some more. And they work their way up to Mary Had a Little Lamb. And maybe after a few months, I would get an email from a parent saying, hey, little Sally really enjoys the trumpet. We're interested in private lessons. Do you have someone you could suggest? So little Sally starts taking private lessons, and she gets more serious. And her 15 minutes a day of practice unfolds to 30 minutes. And down the road, as she gets better and better, that goes to an hour. And maybe somewhere down the line, Sally auditions for a music high school or the Philharmonic or whatever it is. But it is a natural progression. It was not getting her little trumpet in 4th, 5th, or 6th grade, taking private lessons and auditioning all in the same day. It's an organic process. She has to start. She has to get excited about it. She has to feel the frustration and all the emotions that come with it. And she has to keep going and let the process unfold organically. And it is the same exact thing with our health and fitness journey. You are not starting this day 1 and go getting your certification in personal training. You are not starting this day 1 and signing up for personal training where a coach is going to spit in your face and make you do burpees until your legs collapse under you. You are starting where you feel comfortable. You're starting with something that feels sustainable. Just like little Sally started out with 15 minutes of dying cow noises, you're starting out with 3 sets of body weight squats. And that's awesome. And you're going to get better and you're going to love it more, and you're going to start to feel the effects just like she could hear the effects, and you're going to say, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And that momentum is going to lead you to be consistent. And once you start getting that consistency, that's where we keep it going. That's where we start to talk about accountability with a coach or a buddy or a journal or a program. That's where we remind ourselves it is never a should, it is always a choice. And eventually, all of these things add up to build to what we call the Holy Grail, and that is your habits. Everything in your life right now is a result of your habits. And if you want to change your life, you change your habits. And the way that we build on those habits, the way that we develop these new healthy habits is by starting small, being consistent, and letting the process unfold organically. For more information on MindStrong Fitness, visit www.mindstrongfitness.com.